जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना। यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना। यमुना तीरावनचारी। यमुना तीरावनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना। यमुना तीरावनचारी। यमुना तीरावनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी। जय कृष्ण रुक्मिणी जय सत्यभामा। कृष्ण रुक्मिणी जय सत्यभामा। जय दामोदरा जय दामोदरा। दामोदरा जय दामोदरा। जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय। गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय। जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 प्रभुपाद। जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य श्री श्रीमती डिवाइन ग्रेस श्री भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी शील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य श्री श्रीमती डिवाइन ग्रेस शील भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद्भागवतम की जय। श्री श्री कृष्ण रुक्मिणी सत्यभामा की जय। श्री श्री गौर निताय की जय। जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 25, The Glories of Devotional Service, verses 39 and 40. Imam lokam tatha eva amam. Imam lokam tathaiva amam. Imam lokam tathaiva amam. Atmanam ubhaya ayinam. Atmanam ubhayayinam. Atmanam ubhayayinam. Atmanam anu ye cha iha. Atmanam anu ye cheha. Atmanam anu ye cheha. Ye rayaha pasavaha grihaha. Ye raya pasavo grihaha. Ye raya pasavo grihaha. Visrijya sarvan anyan cha. Visrijya sarvan anyanscha. Visrijya sarvan anyanscha. Mam evam vishvataha mukham. Mamevam vishvato mukham. Mamevam vishvato mukham. Bhajanti ananyaya bhaktya. Bhajantyananyaya bhaktya. Bhajantyananyaya bhaktya. Tan mrityoho atiparaye. Tan mrityoratiparaye. Tan mrityoratiparaye. Imam lokam tathaivamam. Atmanam ubhayayinam. Atmanam manuye cheha. Ye raya pasavo grihaha. Visrijya sarvananyamscha. Mamevam vishvato mukham. Bhajantyananyaya bhaktya. Tan mrityoratiparaye. Imam lokam tathaivamam. Atmanam ubhayayinam. Atmanam manuye cheha. Ye raya pasavo grihaha. Visrijya sarvananyamscha. Mamevam vishvato mukham. Bhajantyananyaya bhaktya. Tan mrityoratiparaye. imam, this, lokam, world, tatha, accordingly, eva, certainly, amum, that world, atmanam, the subtle body, ubhaya, in both, ayinam, traveling, atmanam, the body, anu, in relationship with, ye, those who, cha, also, iha, in this world, ye, that which, rayaha, wealth, pashavaha, cattle, grihaha, houses, visrajya, having given up, sarvan, all, anyan, other, cha, and, mam, me, evam, thus, vishwataha mukham, the all-pervading Lord of the universe, bhajanti, they worship, ananyaya, unflinching, bhaktya, by devotional service, tan, them, mrityoho, of death, atiparaye, I take to the other side. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Thus the devotee who worships me, the all-pervading Lord of the universe, in unflinching devotional service, gives up all aspirations to be promoted to heavenly planets or to become happy in this world with wealth, children, cattle, home, or anything in relationship with the body. I take him to the other side of birth and death. Kindly repeat. Thus the devotee who worships me, the all-pervading Lord of the universe, in unflinching devotional service, gives up all aspirations to be promoted to heavenly planets or to become happy in this world with wealth, children, cattle, home, or anything in relationship with the body. I take him to the other side of birth and death. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Unflinching devotional service, as described in these two verses, means engaging oneself in full Krishna consciousness or devotional service, accepting the Supreme Lord as all in all. Since the Supreme Lord is all-inclusive, if anyone worships Him with unflinching faith, he has automatically achieved all other opulences and performed all other duties. The Lord promises herein that He takes His devotee to the other side of birth and death. Lord Chaitanya, therefore, recommended that one who aspires to go beyond birth and death should have no material possessions. This means that one should not try to be happy in this world or to be promoted to the heavenly world, nor should he try for material wealth, children, houses, or cattle. How liberation is imperceptibly achieved by a pure devotee and what the symptoms are have been explained. For the conditioned soul, there are two statuses of living. One status is in this present life, and the other is our preparation for the next life. If I am in the mode of goodness, then I may be preparing for promotion to the higher planets. If I am in the mode of passion, then I shall remain here in a society where activity is very prominent. And if I am in the mode of ignorance, I may be degraded to animal life or a lower grade of human life. But for a devotee, there is no concern for this life or the next life, because in any life, he does not desire elevation in material prosperity or a high grade or low grade life. He prays to the Lord, "My dear Lord, it does not matter where I am born, but let me be born, even as an ant, in the house of a devotee." A pure devotee does not pray to the Lord for liberation from this material bondage. Actually, The pure devotee never thinks that he is fit for liberation. Considering his past life and his mischievous activities, he thinks that he is fit to be sent to the lowest region of hell. If in this life I am trying to become a devotee, this does not mean that in my many past lives I was 100% pious. That is not possible. A devotee, therefore, is always conscious of his real position. Only by his full surrender to the Lord, by the Lord's grace, are his sufferings made shorter. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, surrender unto me, and I will give you protection from all kinds of sinful reaction. That is his mercy. But this does not mean that one who has surrendered to the lotus feet of the Lord has committed no misdeeds in his past life. A devotee always prays, for my misdeeds may I be born again and again, but my only prayer is that I may not forget your service. The devotee has that much mental strength, and he prays to the Lord, may I be born again and again, but let me be born in the home of your pure devotee, so that I may again get a chance to develop myself. A pure devotee is not anxious to elevate himself in his next birth. He has already given up that sort of hope. In any life in which one is born, as a householder or even as an animal, one must have some children, some resources, or some possessions. But a devotee is not anxious to possess anything. He is satisfied with whatever is obtainable by God's grace. He is not at all attached to improving his social status or improving the status of education of his children. He is not neglectful, he is dutiful, but he does not spend too much time on the upliftment of temporary household or social life. He fully engages in the service of the Lord, and for other affairs, he simply spares as much time as absolutely necessary. Yatharham upayunjataha. Such a pure devotee does not care for what is going to happen in the next life or in this life. He does not care even for family, children, or society. He fully engages in the service of the Lord in Krishna consciousness. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita that without the knowledge of the devotee, the Lord arranges for his devotee to be immediately transferred to his transcendental abode just after leaving his body. After quitting his body, he does not go into the womb of another mother. The ordinary common living entity, after birth, is transferred to the womb of another mother, according to his karma or activities, to take another type of body. But as far as the devotee is concerned, he is at once transferred to the spiritual world in the association of the Lord. That is the Lord's special mercy. How it is possible is explained in the following verses. Because he is all powerful, the Lord can do anything and everything. He can excuse all sinful reactions. He can immediately transfer a person to Vaikuntha Loka. That is the inconceivable power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is favorably disposed to the pure devotees. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namavo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preyasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Deenataranam. Now Diwali is coming in this week. next few days. And Deepavali is the bonanza time for all kinds of industries to expect mega bumper sales. Everywhere you will see Diwali sales, Diwali discount. This is the time when people go and shop. And especially for cars, if you see, Diwali is considered the biggest sale time of the year. That's the time when maximum number of cars get sold. And today, if you see, people when they go to buy cars, they have multiple options. You have varieties of cars, Indian, foreign, Korean, Japanese, American, German. All kinds of cars are available for people to choose from. Lot of variety. In the 80s, I remember when I was a small child, there were only two options. One is Ambassador, another is Premier Padmini. Only these two cars were in India. Anybody had to buy, he had to choose between one of these two. My uncles, what they would do, and today you have, all the cars, whatever car you want to see, you go out, within a few kilometers radius, you will find the showrooms of all the cars. You go from showroom to showroom, you drive, test drive, whatever you want, you look at all the models, all that facility is available. Those days, in the 80s, there were no car showrooms. My uncles, what they would do, they wanted, two of my uncles, they liked to drive cars. So they would take money from my grandfather and they would go to Kolkata, because Kolkata is where Hindustan Motors had their factory and where the cars would get manufactured. They would go there, pay the money, take a car and drive it all the way down to South India, to Kerala. And they would use the car for a few years, 3 years, 4 years. After that, they would sell it off second hand, take a little extra money from grandfather, again go to Kolkata, buy a new car, Ambassador car, and they would come. See, actually, whenever sons, in India at least, whenever sons want a vehicle, if the father is rich enough, he will buy a car for the son, and the son can go around in the car, he can drive it, he can go wherever he wants. When the car becomes a little old, the father will, he will pay extra money, buy a new car and give it to the son. Or some accident happens, the father will discard that car and buy a new car for the son. And the children, happily, they go around traveling in the car which their father has provided. This is a very common thing. So, in the Narayaniya, it is stated that Yavai Shri Krishna Rukmini Satyabhama ki jai. It is stated in the Narayaniya, Yavai sadhana sampatti purushartha chatushtaye taya vina tadapnoti naro narayanashrayaha. People in this material world, they are running after purushartha chatushtaye, the chatu purushartha, the 4 purusharthas. Purushartha means what is desirable for the human beings. There are 4 things which are desirable to be obtained by human beings. One is dharma, to follow the principles of dharma. It can be Hinduism, it can be Islam, it can be Christianity. Any part of the world you go, people will want to follow some dharma or the other, some religion or the other. So the first necessity of a human being is dharma. Why do people follow dharma? Because they want to be pious. And if they are pious, God will bless them with happiness in life. Whatever necessities they have in life will be fulfilled for them. They will be able to earn good money and lead a good life. So dharma, the second benefit that people want is artha. Artha means wealth. And with wealth, what will people do? By performing dharma, people want to become rich, they want to become wealthy, and by becoming wealthy, they want to fulfill the third necessity of life. What is that? Kama. Whatever desires they have, they want to fulfill that. Like it is being mentioned by Kapila to Devahuti in today's verse. Imam lokam, in this world, tathaivamum atmanam, not only in this world, but residence in the heavenly planets. After we die, the people, they think, if I do pious activities, after I die, I can go to Swarga, I can go to heaven, and I can enjoy life there. Otherwise, I have to go to hell, Naraka, and I have to suffer. So people want to engage in various activities in this world in preparation for their next life as well as for their current life. So one is pious activities for elevation to heavenly kingdoms. Another is to enjoy within this world also. How do people want to enjoy? Atmanam ubhayayinam atmanam anuyecheha ye raya pasavo grihaha. People aspire to be promoted to heavenly planets or to become happy in this world with wealth, children, cattle, home. Rayaha, wealth, pasavaha, animals, cattle, grihaha, home, and children, etc. This is what everybody wants. In this life, I should be happy. How do I become happy? I should have good wealth, and I should have a good wife or a good husband. I should have nice children. I should have a beautiful house, home sweet home. And I should have, in the olden days it was pasavaha, cattle, animals. Today it is, I want a car, I want a bike, some mode of conveyance. So this is what all people aspire for in this material world. So by following the Purusharthas, by following Dharma, one will get Artha, wealth, and Kama, all one's desires, to have a nice family, to have good children, to have a good house, to have enough wealth in one's life. And not only in this life, next life also, to be able to enjoy in the heavenly planets, to be elevated to a higher status of life. All these things constitute Kama. So Dharma, religion, leads to Artha, wealth. Wealth leads to fulfillment of Kama or desires. And then when one gets satiated with fulfilling one's desires like that, what happens? One wants to get liberated from this material world. So this is the fourth Purushartha, the fourth necessity of human life, which is to get liberated from this material world. So the Narayaniya is stating that Yavai sadhana sampattihi purushartha chatushtaye. What you can gain by following the four Purusharthas, the ultimate goal to be achieved is mukti or liberation. So you follow Dharma not only for happiness within this material world, with wealth, good family, children, and a nice house, etc., but also to be able to have a higher status of life in the next life, both in this life as well as next life. By following Dharma, by following religion, you want to enjoy both in this life and next life. And not only that, you also want to ultimately get liberated from this material world. Both things are aimed to be achieved by following Dharma. Now, by following Dharma, Artha, Kama, gradually one comes to the stage of renunciation and one is able to think of mukti or liberation. So ultimately, one has to follow step-by-step process. Initially, you follow Dharma simply to satisfy your desires. As you go on following Dharma and satisfying your desires for enjoyment in this material world, gradually Vairagya will start coming in. Eventually, you will start thinking of mukti and you will get liberated. This is the gradual process of Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha. Now, Narayaniya is stating, Taya vina, without following any Dharma, without acquiring Artha or wealth, without trying to satisfy all one's material desires, without even attempting for Moksha or Mukti, Taya vina tadapnoti, one can achieve everything. One will be able to fulfill all one's desires. Wealth will come of its own accord, family will come of its own accord, one's elevation in status of life will happen on its own, one will even get liberated on one's own without striving for all these things. Taya vina tadapnoti. How? How is it possible? How can somebody attain mukti without striving for it, without taking enough tapasya, austerity, doing yajnas, doing dana, charity, sacrifice, charity, austerity? Without all these things, how can somebody achieve dharma, artha, kama and moksha? By giving up all these things. So that naro narayana ashrayaha, if a person takes shelter of the lotus feet of Narayana, then all these things will come on its own. Of its own accord they will come, although the person who has surrendered to the lotus feet of Narayana may not desire it, he may not strive for it, but automatically these things will come in his life. So, in this material world, actually if you see, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Ishvaraha sarva bhutanam hriddeshe arjuna tishtati brahmayan sarva bhutani yantrarudhani mayaya. Actually, Krishna says that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, Ishvaraha, he is the supreme controller. Sarva bhutanam, of all the living entities, hriddeshe arjuna tishtati. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, as the Super Soul, as the Paramatma, he is seated within the heart of every living entity. Ishvaraha sarva bhutanam hriddeshe arjuna tishtati. So, in the heart of every living entity, the living entity is accompanied by the Paramatma constantly. And, of course, the living entity in this material world is desiring sense gratification. That is why he has acquired this body and he is engaged in activities in this material world. So the Paramatma, what is he doing? Because the Paramatma, Krishna, has no desire to enjoy any material happiness. He is not interested in this lowly happiness which is available in the material world. So why is he accompanying the Paramatma within the heart? Brahmayan sarva bhutani. He is making the living entities roam around, wander in this material world, right from Brahma Loka down to the Patala Loka, to the lowest hellish planet. From the topmost heavenly planet till the lowest hellish planet, the living entities are wandering up and down. And this is caused by the Paramatma. Brahmayan sarva bhutani. And why do the living entities wander like this? Because, as it is stated by Kapila Dev here, that ye raya pasavo grihaha imam lokam tathaivamum. The living entities desire to enjoy in this material world with a house, with a family, with children, with wealth, etc., as well as to enjoy a higher status of life in the next life by elevating oneself to the heavenly planets. Because a living entity has these kind of desires, to fulfill those desires, Krishna makes the living entity wander from the topmost heavenly planet down to the bottommost hellish planet. So Krishna doesn't do it because he wants to do it. Krishna is doing it. Krishna is facilitating the living entity to fulfill his desires. And how does this wandering from the topmost heavenly planet to the bottommost hellish planet happen? Yantrarudhani mayaya. The living entity is made to sit in the vehicle of the body and he is made to travel up and down. Just like you see, the father, he wants to facilitate the son to roam around, so he buys a car for the son. My grandfather, he was buying a car every 2-3 years and giving it to the sons. And when the car becomes old, he will buy a new car and give it to them, facilitating the sons to travel wherever they want. Similarly, Krishna is the Supreme Father, and the living entities want to travel up and down in this universe, and Krishna is facilitating that with the car, with the vehicle of the body. The material body is the vehicle with which the living entity travels up and down in this whole universe, right from the topmost heavenly planet, Brahmaloka, down to the bottommost hellish planet, Patala Loka. And this is how the living entity is wandering throughout the whole universe on account of his desires to enjoy wealth, house, children, family, fame, power, all these desires that the living entity has. Because of that, he is made to wander up and down in the vehicle of the body. Sometimes he gets the body of a Brahma, sometimes he gets the body of some devata like Indra or Vayu or something like that. Sometimes he gets the body of a human being, sometimes that of a plant or a tree, sometimes that of an animal, or sometimes the body of a living entity in the lower planetary systems. Like this, the living entity is traveling in different vehicles from the top to the bottom of the universe. Now, although the living entity is traveling like this, there is an opportunity for him to get out of this material life of birth, death, disease, and old age, which characterizes this vehicle. This vehicle, you see, the vehicle of the body, just like you have a car. The car, once you buy, it cannot run permanently. Every few years, the car will become old, you have to sell it and buy a new car. Or there is some accident, you have to discard that car and buy a new car. And the father will facilitate the son. Similarly, whatever body I have now, it will permanently not remain. Eventually it will become old, it will become diseased, and finally it will get destroyed. So, every now and then, we have to keep taking a new vehicle, new body, new vehicle. Such a headache it is. Nobody wants to become old, nobody wants to become diseased, nobody wants to die. But these things are forced upon us because we have accepted this vehicle of the body. And the vehicle of this body is characterized like this, it cannot remain permanently. So, a living entity, eventually when he becomes dissatisfied with this kind of life of repeated birth, death, disease, and old age, he strives for liberation. So there are many ways to achieve liberation. One of the ways, taya vina, without performing any other activity, without going through dharma, artha, kama, moksha, all these things, one can attain liberation. So, that liberation, there are multiple ways to achieve liberation. One can take the process of karma yoga, somebody may take up the process of jnana yoga, somebody may follow the path of ashtanga yoga, and somebody may follow the process of bhakti yoga. Now, in all these processes, out of all these processes, the fourth yoga system, which is that of bhakti yoga, is completely set apart on a different, higher platform than all other yoga systems. Generally, people think all yoga systems are the same. Whichever path you want, you can take. But no. Better than karma yoga is jnana yoga. Better than jnana yoga is ashtanga yoga. Better than all other processes is bhakti yoga. Why? Why is it so? Krishna in the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, he says, Yetu sarvani karmani mayi sanyasya matparaha. Ananyena eva yogena mam dhyayanta upasate. Tesham aham samudharta mrityu samsara sagarat bhavami nachirat partha mayyavisita chetasam. So Krishna says, mayyavisita chetasam, for those who have invested their entire thinking, feeling, willing upon Krishna, and ananyena eva yogena, they render devotional service to Krishna, pure devotional service to Krishna. Ananya yoga. For them, what happens? Krishna says that aham samudharta, tesham aham samudharta, I personally deliver them, mrityu samsara sagarat, from this ocean of birth and death. In all other yoga systems, what happens? You have to get liberated on your strength, on your ability to follow that yoga process. A karma yogi has to be completely detached from the fruits of his actions, and he has to be attached to only performing his duties according to the varnashrama dharma. Very tough, not easy to remain always detached. Somewhere along the line, one will develop attachment for something or the other. It's very difficult because the nature of the living entity is to be attached to something or the other. Artificially, we may with great determination, we may restrain ourselves from getting attached to something or the other. But eventually, we will be forced to get attached to something. Not easy to follow the path of Karma Yoga. It requires great determination. Similarly, Jnana Yoga, if you want to follow the path of Jnana Yoga, first thing is you have to renounce the material world. You have to take sannyas. You have to give up all your connection with your family, with your relatives, with your career, with money, wealth, fame, everything you have to give up. And you have to engage in deep study of the Vedic scriptures. You have to study the Upanishads, the Vedanta Sutras. And again, not easy. Because every time we die, next lifetime, we will have to start from zero. You cannot say that last lifetime I had studied out of the 108 Upanishads, I had studied 10 Upanishads. This life, I will start from the 11th one. No, you'll have to start with A, only. You have to start with the alphabets and learn from there. And again, you have to go through the whole thing. You see? So, in Jnana Yoga is also not easy. It is tough. And you are dependent upon your intelligence, your capability to understand the Sanskrit language, to be able to comprehend the deep philosophical concepts which are covered in the Upanishads and the Vedanta Sutras. So you need a lot of intelligence to be able to follow the path of Jnana Yoga. And Ashtanga Yoga, you have to follow very strict brahmacharya. You have to give up all your city life, and you have to go to the forest all alone. You have to practice brahmacharya and the different asanas, pranayama, pratyahara, dhyana, samadhi, all these kind of things you have to practice. So in Ashtanga Yoga, you are dependent upon your powers of concentration and ability to restrain your senses, withdrawing your senses within yourself. Dharana, pratyahara, withdrawing your senses. Your ability to be able to avoid the pushings of the senses to engage in sense gratification. You have to be very determined in this. So in every yoga process, to achieve success, you are dependent upon your personal ability, determination, intelligence, self-restraint. All these things are very prominent. But Krishna is saying in the Bhagavad Gita, if his devotee is engaged in pure devotional service, constantly absorbed in thinking of him, and Mayi Sanyasta Sarva Karmanam, the devotee has dedicated all his activities to Krishna. He has dedicated his whole life to Krishna. He is not engaged in any other activity save and except serving Krishna. For such a devotee, Krishna says, Hesham Aham Samudharta. Krishna will personally come and deliver. That devotee, Ananyayana Eva Yogena, he has no desire. He doesn't even want to be liberated. But Krishna will take the trouble of personally delivering that devotee. Tesham aham samudharta, Krishna says. Krishna says he will personally deliver that devotee. So for that kind of deliverance, how much time will it take? Because to follow the path of Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, it takes many, many lifetimes. Bahunam janmanam ante. Many lifetimes it takes. So in Bhakti Yoga, what happens? Krishna says that Bhavami nachirat partha. Very quickly, Tesham aham samudharta, Krishna will deliver. This is the power of pure devotional service. The same thing is stated in today's verse also. Kapila Deva states, Bhajanti ananyaya bhaktya tan mrityor atiparaye. Whoever renders ananya bhakti to Krishna, tan mrityor atiparaye. I will personally deliver them. This is Kapila Deva's promise. He is assuring us that you don't have to worry about your liberation, about crossing over this ocean of birth and death. I will take that responsibility. So this is something which is there in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and the same thing Krishna is saying in the Bhagavad Gita. Not only this, even in the Varaha Purana, Prabhupada quotes this also. In the Varaha Purana, it is stated, Nayami Paramam Sthanam Archiradi Gatim Mina Garudaskandam Aropya Yathecham Anivarataha. So, Krishna is stating that Nayami Paramam Sthanam, I will personally take the devotee to the supreme abode. What is that supreme abode? It is Vaikuntha, the spiritual world. Nayami paramam sthanam. He will personally take the devotee to the spiritual abode. Nayami paramam sthanam archiradigatim vina, without having to elevate oneself to the higher planetary systems. Because when we follow the path of dharma, artha, kama and moksha, what happens is gradually you have to elevate yourself from this human form of life to you have to elevate yourself to the heavenly planets. And in the heavenly planets, again, you have to undergo austerity, you have to do charity, all these kind of things, and accumulate punya, and further go higher up, higher up, higher up. Like that, you travel higher and higher up. So, you go to the uppermost planetary systems. Finally, one lifetime, you will be able to go to Brahmaloka, to the planet of Brahma. So, going through the Archi Adi, through the different planets of fire, and all these things you have to cross over. You have to cross over the sun planet, you have to cross over the moon planet, you have to cross over Swarga, you have to go to Janaloka, Maharloka, Tapoloka. Finally, you will come to Brahmaloka. And then in Brahmaloka, you continue your process of tapasya, you continue your process of dana, punya, etc. Then at the end of Brahma's life, when Brahma will get liberated, we will also attain liberation. You can imagine such a long process it is. And Varaha Purana is stating, Archiradigatim vina, without having to elevate yourself to the heavenly planets. Nayami paramam sthanam. Krishna said, I will take you directly back to the spiritual world. And Garuda Skandam Aropya. How can one travel from here to the spiritual world directly? Garuda Skandam Aropya. I will come on the shoulders of Garuda and I will take you to the spiritual world. Yatecham anivarita, without any obstruction, without any obstacle, nobody can stop you. When Krishna comes personally on his Garuda and he takes you back to Godhead. So you see, the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that Tesham aham samudharta, Krishna will personally deliver. Varaha Purana, it is stating that Nayami paramam sthanam Garuda skandam aropya, that he will personally come and he will take us back to Godhead. And Bhagavatam, Kapiladeva is also stating, Tan mrityo ratiparaye, I will personally deliver my devotees. So therefore, if we render pure devotional service to Krishna, if we render devotional service to Krishna, Krishna will take responsibility to liberate us. Although the devotee has no desire to get himself liberated. So the responsibility becomes Krishna's. A devotee knows his position. He remembers all his past sinful activities and he feels he is most unqualified for liberation. For all his past activities, he must suffer in the material world, in the hellish planets for many, many lifetimes. So a devotee prays to Krishna that, Krishna, let me be born in hell, let me rot in hell for millions of lifetimes. But please bless me that wherever I go, even in the hellish planet, I may be always able to constantly remember your lotus feet and your holy name, and I may be able to render constant, uninterrupted, unmotivated devotional service to your lotus feet. This is the only prayer of a devotee. And such a devotee becomes eligible to be liberated by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna himself. And that is why that kind of devotional service, it is being stated here, Visrijya Sarvan. A devotee who gives up, Sarvan Visrijya, he gives up everything. What all does he give up? Rayaha, Pashavo, Grihaha. He gives up his attachment to Rayaha, to wealth. Pashavo, to the various cattle and other animals and one's possessions that we have, like cars and whatever modes of conveyance we have. A devotee gives up his attachment to all that. And Grihaha, he gives up his attachment to his house, to his family, to his wife, to his husband, to his children. He gives up all attachment to all of this. And one who gives up attachment to all of this and renders devotional service to Krishna, that is called Ananya Yoga, Ananya Bhakti Yoga. That kind of devotional service, when we render, it attracts Krishna. And Krishna becomes eager to deliver that devotee. And not only that, Kapiladeva is stating, Visrijya Sarvan Anyamscha. One gives up not only one's attachment to become happy in this world with wealth, children, cattle, home, or anything in relationship with the body, ubhayayinam, tathaivamum, and to enjoy in the heavenly planets, one gives up all these things, anyamsa, and all others also. So Ananya Yoga, Ananya Bhakti Yoga means one has to give up all one's desires to enjoy in this material world with family, wealth, and house, possessions. One has to give up one's attachment to all this. One must also give up one's desire to enjoy in the next life. That next life I should have a good life, I should not suffer. One should give up all one's desires to enjoy in this life also, next life also. Not only that, one must also anyamsa, visrijya sarvan anyamsa, one must also give up one's taking shelter of all other personalities, like one's ancestors, performing shraddha to one's ancestors and trying to satisfy them, to devatas, to performing different kinds of sacrifices and observing various pujas to satisfy the devatas. Like Deepavali is coming, lot of people want to worship Lakshmi Devi, and Shivaratri will come, people want to worship Lord Shiva. Ganesh Chaturthi comes, they want to worship Ganesha. Like this, there are many occasions to worship all the devatas. Kapila Deva is stating, Visrijya Sarvan Anyamsa. One must give up all other, worshipping all other personalities also. All other devatas one must give up worshipping. One must give up worshipping all one's ancestors by performing shraddha and such other ceremonies. One must give up one's worship of all other rishis and sages. One must execute, one must exclusively surrender to a pure devotee of Krishna and render devotional service according to his directions only to Krishna. This is another understanding of Ananya Bhakti Yoga. And then he also says, Visrijya Sarvan Anyamsa. Anyan, when you say, it also includes surrendering and worshipping other incarnations such as Vishnu, Narayana, etc. One must surrender and worship only Krishna. Anyamsa, one gives up worship of all other forms and one dedicate oneself to surrendering and worshipping only Krishna. And for such a devotee, Krishna personally descends, because the devotee has no shelter other than Krishna. He will not even surrender unto Vishnu or Narayana, take shelter of them. No, for him, only Krishna. For such a devotee, Krishna will personally come and take him back to Godhead. This is the assurance given by Kapila Deva to Devahuti. So therefore, going by the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Varaha Purana, the Narayaniya, all these Vedic scriptures are very clear and unequivocal that once we have got the human form of body, we should give up all our attachment to dharma, artha, kama, moksha. One must stop being attached to one's religion. One must give up one's attachment to wealth. One must give up one's attachment to enjoy in this world with family, children, society, fame, reputation, houses, possessions, etc. One must give up attachment to enjoying by achieving a higher status in the next life. One must give up taking shelter of all the demigods, devatas, and one must give up worshipping all other forms of the personalities of Godhead and worship only Krishna. And this is the message which is commonly you will find in the Vedic scriptures. So therefore, we should take shelter of the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada, and he, as our Diksha Guru, has taught us how to engage in exclusive devotional service to Krishna, and by performing that, Krishna will take us back to Godhead. We do not have to put in any endeavor to achieve liberation. So these are the instructions of Kapila Dev to his mother Devahuti also. We will stop here. Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.